Forget.
Not as bad as Gage, Erica. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, if I'm not as
There
bad
was-
as Gage, then
There was
I
one
will take
podcast we
that.
did. There's one podcast we did where Gage just forgot Ben was there, and it wasn't until like 15 minutes in where Gage was like, "Oh yeah, Ben's here."
It was the Nick episode. So, you know.
That's fantastic. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Optimistic Underdog podcast. Today is a super special episode, and I am with a bunch of awesome people tonight. So, with me, I have my host from all those other great shows. It is Ben at Please Be Excited. Ben, what's up?
What's up?
How are you
I'm
doing?
excited to talk some FCF today.
I'm so excited. We're talking FCF. It's going to be a great time.
Go
Also-
Aces.
No aces. Also with me is Mr. Cesar Torres. Cesar, what is up?
The ace is wild,
This is
Everybody.
wild. Heck.
and also that was an interception. I don't care what the refs say.
I feel like we're going to be talking about that for a while. That
Yeah.
that interception, non-interception. Oh my goodness, great. Also, I have one of my favorite people in the entire world, the person who knows more about Harry Potter than anybody else, undoubtedly and soon undisputedly, Miss McKenna. McKenna, what is up?
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. I want to learn what football is.
Well,
Just in
we're gonna,
general.
Wait,
we're gonna learn more about football,
Mhm.
and hopefully you'll learn something tonight. And I'm so excited. So let's learn things. And our super awesome special guest, the one who is hopefully going to teach us more about FCF because he actually has a podcast about it. It is Jose Ruckus. Jose, what is up? How are you?
I've had a rough day because of a terrible loss, but I
Oh,
can
no.
confirm through anonymous sources that the refs have apologized because it was an interception.
Oh,
Yes.
look at that. Well, I mean, at least they said they were sorry, I guess. But hey,
It's a little too late, but
yeah, not much can be done about that unless they replay the game.
oh, yeah,
It's the
that
only way
that
the beasts can win, you know?
hurt. It did hurt. I watched that play a lot last night. I watched the replay over and over. That was rough. That was rough. But how are you doing? We're so happy to have you here with us. If you don't mind, why don't you tell the folks how what you do?
So I do a podcast called Aces Wild, which is we just talk about the Aces and how the Glacier Boys suck, and we interview players. We have my my co-host Sean Stanley, who is an actual Pop Warner football coach. He comes on to help with the football knowledge a little bit and stuff, and it's just mostly just a real good time.
That's fantastic. Everyone, please check out the Aces Wild podcast. It's awesome. And of course, the Glacier Boys do suck. So they tell the truth 100%. So awesome. Well, guys, we are here to ask some questions and let's learn some stuff about FCF. It is definitely taking, I know, our little community by storm. We're all fans of Kind of Funny. And, the owner, one of the many owners, is Greg Miller. So I have my first question is about ownership. This is kind of new. It's kind of different how this works. So we have owners Greg Miller, Austin Eckler from LA Chargers, Rachel Lindsay. I think she was from The Bachelor, right?
She was on The
Bachelorette.
Bachelor. She was the Bachelorette for a little bit. Now she works on like Extra and does a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff. Jack Settleman, I believe. And
Yep.
then my favorite personal owner just announced, Barbara Dunkelman. Heck yes.
Yes.
So, I know that so you can buy in as part owner of a team if you want. So let's talk a little bit about that because I think this is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I did it. I do own part of the Wild Aces. Essentially, what
Awesome.
they did was they carved out 10% of the equity in the teams to sell to fans. And you can buy in at various different levels. It kind of looks like a Patreon model where there are like tiers that you can buy in at, the lowest being $150, which is what I did. And you don't get a whole lot for your $150, but you do get an ownership badge when you vote on plays and player polls and stuff. Your vote is worth a little bit more because you are invested. And theoretically, if the teams were to eventually sell into a bigger version of the league, you would get some return on your investment.
Oh, See, that is super cool. Yeah, I can see so you have the 150, which is the bottom tier, and I've gotten a couple emails and I'm like, oh, I want I want to. And then there's 995, 5,000, and then $9,999 investment. Which, man, oh man, wouldn't that be nice? But yeah, that's just it's such a cool thing, and it really just shows you how they really are invested in the fans and the fans being in control of the league, and that's I don't know, that's just super cool. And your vote actually getting to count a little bit more on the different play calls and stuff, that is awesome. I think just being able to be a part owner, that's super cool. Awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
That was my big question. I definitely wanted to know more about the owners. Hey Ben, how about you? Do you have a question?
Yeah, so it's probably more around the podcast side of things for yourself. I guess the first question is, are there any big guests that you'd really love to have on the show that you haven't had on already?
Austin Eckler is sort of the end goal. If I could get to sit down for like half an hour with an actual NFL player, that would be like mission accomplished. But really, when we set out to do the podcast, we had sort of like goals we wanted to hit by the end of the season. And one of the main ones was to get Greg on for the show. And that kind of happened around like 5 episodes in. So I'm just kind of like,
awesome.
I got house money right now,
What was that like?
So anything could happen and you'll be fine. Like anybody could go.
I could shut down the podcast right now. It was a really great experience, though. It's
You got 3 other owners to get through before he gets Austin.
Yeah, I do. We have Jack Settlement set up. He's supposed to be coming in pretty soon.
Nice.
Really hoping to get Barbara on because I'm a huge fan of hers.
Yes.
But yeah, I want to get everybody on eventually.
Yeah, that's so cool. Being able to
So
interview
what was it like
Greg.
having Greg on the show?
It was so weird, man. He's so good at talking that you sort of get lost because he's just like, I'm sitting there listening to him and I'm just absorbed in what he's saying. And he gets to the end of it and I haven't prepped my next question yet. And I stumble for a little bit. It was an awesome experience, man. It was really great.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, that would be great. Having Barbara on, I think, I know that Ben and I were talking the other day. I'm like, I need to find some more guests to have on soon. I'm like, man. And then that was when they announced that Barbara had become part owner. I'm like, man, to have Barbara on a show, that would be a dream. But I don't think I could. I would just be like, so, what's it like to be so cool?
Yeah.
And, yeah, I feel like I would just stumble over things because she's definitely someone I've looked up to for a long time, and how she handles herself, and she's great, and that would be so awesome. To have her on the show. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Oh, please clip that out and send that out on the interwebs so we can try to get Barb on the show.
Can you? I will find Barbara Dunkelman's Rooster Teeth email. We can send it to her.
Well, Caesar, how about you? Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm pretty new to football. I understand like a couple of things, but what is that? From my understanding, the FCF added some new things that are really like different. Can you give us a better understanding of like what a power play is and what a fifth down is? Because I feel like nobody understands what the hell that is. Not even like the owners.
Question I had from a few people. I had that a couple of times when I said that we were going to have this show, and everybody was like, "What is a fifth down?" I'm like, I will ask that question. So perfect.
So essentially, what they did was they kind of wanted to gamify the game, which is sort of a weird thing to say, but so. Right now, before the drafts, the players compete in these one-on-one competitions, right? It's wide receivers, quarterbacks, and cornerbacks. And I think they just, last week, they did running backs and tight ends as well. And essentially what it is very similar to the way that they do their 2-point conversions, where it's just a one-on-one matchup to score a touchdown. And the quarterback, the cornerback, and the offensive skill player who perform the best, each one of them is awarded a power-up. And the power-ups can be cashed in by the coaches for various things. The fifth down, the power play. So the power play is something that they stole from hockey, right? In hockey, if a player gets, sent to the penalty box and the team is left on the ice with, nobody in his spot sometimes, it's essentially just one player on defense isn't there versus, an extra guy on offense. And that's one that kind of hasn't been very successful, to be honest, because all they've sort of done is just not rush the quarterback. Somebody has to drop into coverage to cover that guy's position. So I don't think anybody's actually converted on a power play yet, which is kind of embarrassing. The fifth down is the other one. So in the game of football, you have 4 downs to get 10 yards in order to get a new set of downs. So if you were to come up on your 4th down, you don't get it, and you have one of these power-ups left, you can get 1 extra down to be able to get that extra that you need to get your next first down. This was sort of a weird thing that happened in the Wild Aces Glacier Boys week 1, where people seem to not understand exactly where in the game the 5th down operates. The Glacier Boys got to their 4th down. They didn't get a first down. They instead committed a penalty, which was the quarterback threw the ball once he had crossed the line of scrimmage. It's a penalty that results in a loss of down. So their 4th down was taken away from them. So the Aces got the ball automatically. And then the Glacier Boys tried to call a 5th down, which they couldn't technically do because the Aces had the ball already. We actually don't really know how the 5th down works. It's actually not in the rule book. I just dug through it yesterday trying to figure out exactly what the sequencing is on it and stuff. So we don't know. We really don't know how it works. It's kind of weird.
Interesting.
It's like the Force, you know. It's there.
Midichlorians, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Midichlorians.
I also had another question. Yesterday, you tweeted out like in between. I think it was you. You tweeted out like in between games that they changed the rules.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? What was the rule change that they made?
So they felt that the ending of the Aces Beasts game and the ending of the first half sort of didn't go the way that they wanted to. So the game is a constantly running clock, which is not something you normally get in football, right? Normally, if you go out of bounds, anything like that stops the clock and allows the team to sort of manage the clock in a way to where that they can control the outcome to the best of their abilities. In the FCF, the clock just runs the entire time until it gets down to the last minute. And during the last minute, passing plays will stop the clock no matter where they're caught on the field, but running plays, no matter what, the clock would keep running. So we got into this weird situation at the end of the game where the Beasts just stood around until the very last second to snap the ball.
I
and
remember that.
People were sort of confused about the way the clock worked because it was supposed to be a passing play, but then the quarterback ran it out, and then the clock just nobody felt like they had a good understanding of how the clock worked. So what the league decided to do was change the rule up a little bit. So now under 30 seconds, run and pass plays both stop the clock. And it gives just teams a little bit more chance to kind of control the clock in a way that can benefit everybody instead of one team just having this massive advantage.
Yeah, I remember that. It was literally like the last 2 seconds. Everybody was really pissed off in the Kind of Funny chat. It's like, why are they just standing there? Like, why don't they like do something? And then like it wasn't until like the last second that the Beasts stole the game, frankly.
It was very frustrating.
It's robbery.
Matt Batson screamed at his watch, wanting to know how clocks work. I like the response from the league, though. I like that they're willing to go out and say that things aren't working as intended and even change. I know people were upset that they changed rules in between games, but I actually think it's a sign that the league is willing to do what they have to do in order to make the game look the way they want it to.
It is. I think I agree. I think, since it is, fan-controlled football, they're obviously listening to the fans to the point where they're going to change rules that fast. That is, that shows.
That is impressive, yeah.
That's pretty good, especially with how new it is. They have to adjust things on the fly, and showing their willingness to change that fast this early in the season. I think that's pretty impressive. Yeah, it sucks. And yeah, it cost us, helped cost us the game other than that interception. But, it's still good. Still a good move, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. All right, McKenna.
Okay.
What do you got?
So you mentioned this rule book. And in my head, I'm thinking of it like the rule book from Fairly Odd Parents, even though it's probably online and not physical. Are there any like interesting tidbits in that rule book that like might differ from the NFL and other football?
So it's not necessarily that the rules are different. It's more of that the rule book is pretty loose. There are a lot of things that are sort of undefined in the rule book because you're sort of, I think, meant to assume that it just plays like regular football, except for these rules. One of them that we saw that was very confusing and we still have not gotten an answer for is what happened in week 1 at the very last play of the Beasts and Zappers game, which this was actually like a huge thing. It was on Sports Center. Like this was retweeted a bunch of times, but in typical NFL football and really any kind of football that you've seen, there's the line of scrimmage where the ball starts and it's hiked back to the quarterback. And if the quarterback crosses that line of scrimmage, he cannot throw the ball forward. It doesn't matter if he goes forward and then goes backwards. Once the ball crosses that line, it cannot be thrown forward. It can be tossed back, but not forward. Okay. And the last play of the game, the Zappers quarterback, Logan Marchie, ran out, did a little loop-de-loop, came back towards the end zone, and then threw the ball forward. And I went on Twitter and I put, this was a cool play and all because everybody was sharing it, but that's a illegal forward pass. And then somebody clipped out the illegal forward pass on the rule book and said, I don't think it is. And what it says is that the quarterback cannot throw the ball if he's ahead of the line of scrimmage. It says nothing about the ball passing and then going back. So this is this weird loophole because the rules aren't super well defined. They aren't like explained out in the legalese that you sort of get with the NFL rule book. We have no idea if that's legal or not.
Well, like we know, it's like this is the first season. I'm pretty sure they're still figuring everything out. So it's like hopefully as time goes on, they define stuff more, especially to like the fans' likings. For example, the rule change that they made last night.
Yeah,
things go
for
on.
sure.
I don't know.
That's
There are
crazy.
also
I
a lot of
remember
things
seeing
in
that
the
on
rule book.
SportsCenter.
There are a lot of things in the rule book that were sort of voted on by fans. We were given the opportunities. So in the NFL rules, it's a 2-foot catch. You have to get both feet down for it to be considered a catch, unless you're going to the ground in bounds. In this league, it's 1 foot, which is more similar to college. There are a few other things that you can see that were fan voted on, but that's really the one that mattered the most.
That's really cool. I didn't know about the 1 foot thing. That's super interesting, actually. I like that.
I remember voting for that one, and I was like, the 1 foot thing just seems more fair. I don't know, personally. I've
really
always
been
know
a
much.
fan of 1 foot football. It creates like really fun plays and stuff, but it is one of the things that the league, I know the commissioner of the league, Ray Austin, wasn't super happy about because his goal is for this to be sort of a developmental league. And things like that are sort of things where NFL scouts are going to sort of not take it as seriously when considering bringing players up. But I think having fun plays that are shareable is going to be worth more than that.
Yeah.
I agree. I think getting it out there and getting it more attention is going to help at the beginning, at least. And again, there's room for change and room for improvement as this goes along, for sure. We're in season 1. Let's my boss is a huge sports person, and I mentioned the FCF the other day, and he's like, what is that? I'm like, oh, you need to check this out. I'm like, because you will love this. And he started watching a little bit because this is kind of cool. I'm like, yeah, you should watch it more. I'm like, you'll appreciate it, I promise. So even someone like him who is so like literally he has on his computer news thing playing on this screen and sports thing playing on the screen all day long, and he's never heard of it. I was like, you need to here, let me help you, let me give you some information. It's super cool. So awesome. So what is your favorite part of the whole fan controlled football so far? That's what I want to know.
My favorite part of it is honestly just that the league sort of exists. I've been a huge advocate for spring football for a really long time. One of the things that makes football sort of different than other sports is that in terms of professional aspirations for a player, it's sort of all or nothing. They get out of college and it's pretty much right then that they either make it in the NFL or they don't. So having a way for players to play professional football, not at the highest level, and maybe creating a gap for them to, this is a little stopping point that could eventually get them to the highest level. That's what I like the most about it. And other leagues have showed up like the XFL, the AAF, United States Football League way back when. But they've all sort of failed because they're just a cheaper version of the NFL. So what makes me really think that this league has the ability to be that spring football league that can help these guys out is how different it is that they're specifically not trying to be the NFL. They're trying to almost the anti-NFL. And that's really appealing to me.
I went to an XFL game once, and that was, I don't think I've ever seen so few people in a stadium, but also it was just, I know I didn't even stay for the full game. I think I stayed partway through halftime just because the cheerleaders that were there, it was pretty awful. But the game was just, it wasn't even interesting. Like it, and I love football. Like part of the reason I quit my second job was so I could watch football on Sundays more often. And and like you said, this is at least like I'm wanting to watch games again, and that's exciting. I love being able like getting into these
games. Football's a great sport, and I watch almost every NFL game every single year. But bad football is almost unwatchable. Bad football might be the worst sport in the world.
Yeah. Yes.
I think one of my issues with football, and a lot of people's issues with football, is that it's too long. At least the NFL, like, you know, it's just, there's a clock and it's a lie. You know, there's a clock on the screen and it's a lie, because like we were watching the Super Bowl and my cousin's like, how much time to the halftime show? And we're like, oh, it says a minute, so maybe like 30 minutes. We'll just have to wait and see.
It's the last minutes of the game to get you. It's never 2 minutes long.
Yeah. It's so frustrating, which is why I like the FCF, because it's like it's a 50-yard field, which means like shorter, faster plays, but it's also like it's only 2 halves, right? It's not 4 quarters, if I'm correct. So I like this better because it's running faster. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, because you're a big football fan. You watch almost every NFL game. What are your thoughts on like the shorter?
It's different for sure.
Yeah.
It does sort of take away some of the more finer aspects of the game that people really like. Football is sort of deceptively seen as like a dumb sport, but there's actually a like really, really deep amount of strategy to it. And part of that comes through clock manipulation, sort of using the clock in a way to benefit you and take time away from your opponent. And, you know, that's sort of missing in this league. The lack of an ability for the team to go into a no huddle offense and just call really quick plays doesn't exist here. If you have that little small amount of time to get a drive going in this league and the plays aren't coming in fast enough, you're now maybe not able to win the game because you can't just hurry things up and use the clock the way you would typically use it. So I like that the games are shorter, especially because this isn't supposed to be a regular football league. But taking some of the strategy out of the game definitely hurts it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely agree there. I was in the taking the strategy out. I think you then have us at least getting to contribute, though, which I think is fun. I love being able to pick the plays. It reminds me of, this might show my age a lot, but like the Blitz football games back in the day. Like, love it. It's so much fun. I love picking the plays and stuff. It's great. Like I think that part is so cool, being able to like actually interact with stuff like this and actually, like, I think I'm the only person in my household that watches football anymore. So actually being able to watch football with all of these people and interact with everybody at the same time is so much fun. It's such a blast. I love it. So it's great. Like I said, it takes so much from the regular NFL season and brings some really cool aspects from college. And it's that great middle stepping stone that you see in sports. Like, I'm going to bring hockey into it because it wouldn't be a sports podcast if I didn't. But it brings that great like AHL aspect kind of into it, where they have this nice middle ground where, you know, it might or well, not even before HL, but where, scouts can see, hey, maybe this guy that went undrafted might be worth a shot here. Like these guys were doing some great things, and Baker Mayfield's there for some reason. So, hey,
Johnny Football.
Johnny.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, hey, I'm a Steelers girl. I got to throw a little jab at him somehow, right? But, it's so cool. It's so much fun. I'm having a blast with this, though. So, all right, guys, any more questions?
I was just going to say, I kind of like how both can exist. Obviously, you've got the longer form and the shorter form. It's kind of, I guess that's outside of America, like over, like I say, where I live and most other countries. You got things like cricket and rugby that have done it. With its cricket, it's T20, so shorter overs. Rugby, they've got the rugby sevens, where instead of 15 players, it's 7 and much shorter halves. And I think it's quite cool having that really short form, exciting format of the game, and then still having obviously the more traditional one as well. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, because kind of like sort of some people have said in the show, like I don't really have time to necessarily sit down and watch a full football game all the time, but obviously in the shorter form of content, it's great. You can just quickly, in an hour, you can be in and out, see the game, and yeah, it's super exciting. So I'm loving just having, I guess, both options there. That's been really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is cool to be able to be like this is normal football and this is football turned up to 11, right?
Oh yeah.
So much fun. I'm just so glad, like, to just be here in this moment and have everyone excited about it. And that's what the cool part is for me. And like just actually being able, and like you said, spring football. This is great. I love it. Like, let's just more sports. I'm all about more sports. So let's keep that going.
It's so much fun, right? Like I was hanging out with some friends on Discord just watching it. We're just watching it on Twitch, just hanging out.
Exactly.
Especially right now, obviously, with everything happening in the pandemic and everything, it's just good to have that kind of experience again. It's great.
So I know we all are like our fans of like Kind of Funny, and like we have some investment in the Wild Aces one way or another. But honestly, honest to God question, do we see this lasting? Because like you said, the XFL, other football leagues have like fallen apart. Some of them have had dedicated fan bases like the XFL. But could this really, will we see like a Wild Aces versus, I don't know, some kind of Mega 64 team down the line in like 10 years?
See a Mega 64 team, that would be great.
I don't know. Like,
I think this league has a lot more legs than people expect it to.
Mm-hmm.
One thing, there are some really underrated aspects about the business model that make it easier to do. The 7-on-7, for one. A lot of people think that this is just something to accommodate smaller field, higher scoring thing, but also cutting that many guys off the roster makes the budget go way down. Having the defenses, there's one defense, one offensive line unit for each of the 2 games, right? So that's huge amount of players that go down. Everybody's playing out of one stadium, which means that there's no travel. That's one of the major reasons that a lot of these leagues fail, is that they spread it out amongst the entire United States, and that travel budget is just exponential. I was talking to David Measle, one of the tight ends, and he told me that he had a lot of his friends go out and play CFL when they got out of college, and actually lost money playing in the league because they had to fund their own travel and their own hotels and all this stuff. It's these sorts of things that the league is doing really bring sort of the spending down in the league. And then they run 6 studio shows throughout the week out of the same place they film the games. So all those sorts of things allow them to make money smartly. I imagine that the league has probably 3 seasons worth of runway to go. And from talking to players, talking to league officials, they have a lot of stuff that they are not able to talk about yet, but they have plans for, that I see the league having a pretty bright future. Maybe 10 years down the line, we're not here, but 3 years down the line, I think we're still here.
Because I know the plan was to have
really
like
cool is with the players. They just seem, so excited. Like to them, this is a huge opportunity, and just seeing that, like I said, they could very well be, oh, this isn't the NFL, this isn't that next sort of step up, but they're super excited to be there and know that that could be their chance.
Yeah.
The
really
players
is.
more than anybody else believe in this league. I can tell you that much.
That's so cool.
What's really exciting is I just went to check, and since we started recording today, the FCF Wild Aces have sold out. Their maximum funding goal has been reached.
Oh, for the founder?
Yay.
The
The owner
owners
thing?
can join the wait list, but it has sold out, which is super exciting because that is $265,000 for their owners, which is so cool. I mean, that's just for the Wild Aces. I believe what the Beasts, they're
the
sold
Beasts
out
are
as
sold
the
out.
very
well.
first to sell out.
Theirs
Which
was the
is
first.
just
I
great.
mean, and that's
Not
Marshawn
great
Lynch's team, correct?
That's crazy. I didn't know they had
Mhm.
more than 2 fans. That's insane.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Marshawn Lynch is the Skittles guy, so he's, you know. And if no one's ever, if you guys have not seen the Skittles thing, you should definitely look that up because it's hilarious.
Great.
He's fantastic. I kind of miss him playing in the game. It was good.
Now, Jose, a
You
quick
can
question
see
for you.
my Seattle Seahawks flag right here.
I kind of saw the colors. I thought that's what that was. I am, you know, like I said, I know I'm a Steelers girl, but man, do I love the Seahawks too. That's probably like my West Coast team. And that's, you know, it's because I do love the Seahawks. They're great. And I was a huge Marshawn Lynch fan when he played in the league. So that's fantastic.
I'll say, quick question for you, Jose. Do you think there's like a parallel universe where you have a Milk Mummy podcast about the Milk Mummy?
I said it.
I knew it.
I'm trying to remember what episode it was. We had a kind of funny best friend on pretty early on, and we
Yeah.
talked about that. And I told him straight up, I 100% would not have a podcast about this team. If he
I was
hadn't
about to
picked the Milk
bounce out that question, and I was gonna be like, "Are you relieved that it's not Milk Mommy?" And like,
Mummies.
it's,
100%.
like,
I
same.
don't know if I would have watched the games if we were the
Yeah.
Milk Mummies, to be honest. I would feel
Lactation
so
nation.
bad for the players.
I would like,
Yeah.
no, those players would not have a future.
I would not wear
after
that.
this.
I would not. Yeah, I definitely would not own this. I mean, I know a while back, like when my hair was much shorter, when that awful time when I cut all the blue dye out of my hair. Let's just forget that happened last year. I did do my when I was supposed to go to that convention last year, I did cosplay as Johnny Ace, and there are pictures around somewhere of that. But yeah, I don't think I would
I
definitely.
want to see the pictures here, please.
I like that
Alex,
it's
you
a
can find
quarantine
that.
for people to be like, maybe Milk Mommies isn't a great idea for.
Maybe the
football
Milk
team.
Mummies is not a great idea for a
Could
team
you
name. Yes.
imagine having to be Jackson Erdman with Kevin's face right
Oh my
here?
God.
The bullying, like,
I want to live in that
Oh.
world. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
I know you do, Ben. I know.
Ben's the only. Ben is such a chaotic person. He would totally prefer to live in that.
I wouldn't
situation.
wear a jersey in public, but I'd love to see that chaos.
No,
you know?
you have to. You're the one that's bringing this upon yourself. You have to wear that jersey in public.
That's like me making my mom wear the Flyers jersey to a Penguins game. You would still do it, Ben. Okay. I'm just saying.
Maybe around the house, not in public. You know?
I-
All right, guys. Any last questions before we wrap up for today? I think we're good. I've had a great time. I'm having a great time. I'm so glad.
Who plays this week?
Who plays this
Oh,
week?
Wild Aces versus Zappers.
Nice.
Okay.
Ooh.
Oh, who won the Zappers game yesterday?
The
Yeah.
Glacier Boys did.
So okay,
Okay.
Some
Oh, no.
continued very bad reffing.
um, who are we looking to recruit for the draft? Because there's a draft
Okay.
every week.
Every week. That
I
is a
do-
cool thing. I love it. I love the
Which
draft
is
every week.
what. Speaking of the draft every week, it's really interesting because it brings more attention to the players rather than the team itself.
Mhm.
As far as
I
like,
agree.
and I think that's really cool, especially if it's a stepping stone.
I
It's also
agree.
that thing where, like, when you're a fan of sports, obviously you watch a lot of other teams, and you occasionally just be like,
I wish we
"Man,
had
that
that
guy is so good. I wish he could play for our team." Now they can,
Now
and I
they
think
can.
that's awesome. This week, I do think that going offensive line is still super important. Our number one receiver has been Jeremiah Houston, the tight end, who's on the block party. That guy's insane. He's like 6'5" or something like that.
my
He's
gosh.
super lean,
Wow.
but like pure muscle. He's
Wow.
massive. He's also
love
like,
the
I
first
talked to him. He's an
draft.
awesome guy.
I love the first draft when everybody was like, "Why the fuck did they choose an offensive line?" Like, it's like
It's so underrated, man. You have to do it.
It's so underrated.
Who was
It's
playing
great.
99 for the Aces? 'Cause,
Oh,
man,
that is Rumpf. That
he's a
man
unit. And that
is
big hit.
huge.
That poor guy on the receiving end. I felt so bad for him. He must have gone like half
Imagine-
of
So he's part of the line. He's part of the block party. What if the second tag was the block party?
I asked if we could do that. I was told that we weren't allowed to tag offensive lines.
Oh, that's
Oh,
Yeah. Otherwise, I actually think we would have.
yeah.
interesting.
That's
Um,
amazing. That's awesome.
I think we should go back to Trav Daddy in the draft. He actually played. People were really upset that he dropped a couple passes, even though he was our number one receiver in week 1. So he didn't come back, but he had 3 catches for 84 yards and a touchdown with the Zappers yesterday. He's one of the tallest people in the league. There isn't a single defensive back over 6 feet, and he's 6'4". So, and he's just ridiculously fast. I think we need to go back to Trav Daddy.
Hashtag get Trav Daddy back.
Travis touchdown.
I'm back.
Travis touchdown back.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
awesome. I do. I love that we have a draft every week just because, like you said, it puts more focus on the players, which also is why I love that we buy owner jerseys and not player jerseys.
Oh,
It's
we should get like tag jerseys though. Like I'd want a jersey.
Or yeah, a tag jersey would be cool. Yeah, I'd rock the jersey too. But yeah, it's just so much fun. It's so cool.
What does a tag mean?
Okay,
Okay, can I break this? Can I break this news?
Go for it.
go ahead.
McKenna?
It's all you. Go ahead.
No. This is McKenna. This has to do with McKenna. Can I tell them your secret about?
I don't know what secret you're about to tell them.
She
for sure.
hasn't seen a game.
Aw,
I
that's
haven't
okay.
seen a game.
I forgive you. That's
Last
okay.
night I went on Twitter and I saw all the interception things. I was like, I don't get what this means. I called my sister over. I was like, what does this mean? And she had to explain like what happened and like had to explain like, yeah, it was bad. It's bad. I don't know. I did marching band for 3 years. I don't know any of football. Like
And
people had to
this is
explain it to
why
me.
I had her on tonight. I love
But
it.
I love the energy of the FCFL. Every morning I
You,
go
you have to watch the
downstairs
draft. You have to
and I
watch the
asked
draft.
my dad, I'm like, was there anything about the FCFL on ESPN? Every day he's like, no. I'm like, one day.
And this is whatever we're gonna have a draft party one of these weeks.
And I'm
Oh, my
gonna-
Discord. Yeah, sure.
But yeah.
But
It's gonna be
very quickly, what's a tag for
Okay,
those that made it this
so-
far and don't know what a tag is?
Every single week you redraft all the players on your team except for
Mhm.
2 players. The owners were given the option because it's fan controlled football, but we have these really cool owners. They wanted to be able to have the owners put their stamp on the team, so they get to pick 2 players that get to stay on the team for the entire season. They can't go anywhere else.
Oh, so other than those 2 players, they like swap around and everything. with-
Everybody.
Mhm.
Oh, that's so cool.
This is
Oh,
me
thanks
like
so much.
months ago. This is
I was like, why are they having drafts every week? Isn't that like a one and done thing? Oh my
you want to talk about like why they do tags, because it's kind of weird for me. Like
So there's a little bit of conspiracy about why tags exist.
I believe it. I believe that theory.
So originally there were no tags announced for the league, right? And then Bob Menery convinced his friend Johnny Manziel to play in the league, and suddenly teams were allowed to franchise players. So that's probably why Johnny Manziel probably only agreed to join the league if he could play for the Zappers the entire year. But
Mhm.
it is cool that, like I said, they're letting the owners put a stamp on their team, right? Marshawn Lynch tagged his cousin who's playing in the league. That's kind of cool that he says
That
that,
is kinda
this
cool.
is my family. He's going to play on my team the entire year. We took Jerdy, who was a dude who just fit the vibe of our team, and he's
Mhm.
perfect for our team. So
Like
why
from the
should
beginning,
play
he was just like
anywhere
really
else?
writing
He's
the aces.
awesome. He's
Yeah,
great.
he's an
I love
awesome
how much
guy.
he's into it.
I
It's so
know.
good.
He's
He had a
fantastic.
headband, dude. He had a headband like
It's so awesome.
before he got tagged. And then who was the second one we got?
It was Ladarius Galloway, who he's the best pass catching running back in the league. This is probably Austin Eckler's call, but also Jerdy. This was a guy Jerdy wanted a lot because he's a
Yes.
pass catcher.
Mhm.
So he utilizes our previous franchise tag much better than any running back out would.
And what sucks about the tag though is that Jordy injured his arm, so he's not
Hopefully
playing.
he'll
Yeah.
be back soon.
He probably could have played week 2.
I'm gonna say they said it was a class 2 separation. It wasn't
Yeah.
terrible, but not
It
great.
was, let's see, Wednesday he told me he didn't have full motion in his shoulder, but by the Friday practice he was doing pretty good. They
That's
sat him
good.
out just because there was a bit of a worry of re-injury.
Which I get. Yeah, that's better.
You don't
safe than
want to mess
sorry.
with his shoulder.
Yeah, but he should be back next week.
All right,
That's
you heard it
great.
here first. If he doesn't come back next week, just block and unfollow.
Yeah.
Ace Wild on Twitter.
Unsubscribe from the
Unsubscribe,
podcast. I
yeah.
suck.
Let's just hope he's back. I want to watch him play again. It was so much fun week 1. So awesome. All right, guys. Well, I think that is going to be it for tonight. This was a blast. I had so much fun learning more about the FCF, and I hope you all have too. So let's run through all of my great guests again. My co-host, Ben. Ben, where can all of the people find you?
Oh, you can find me all over the internet, so please be excited. Just a
All
little
over
bit
the
in Yep. Twitch.tv/please be excited. Please be excited on Twitter. You can find me at Simply Sassy Vids, where we've just released a brand new game show called Game Sass. Very first pilot episode launched this week, so please check that out. It's a good time, some hilarious segments, and a lot of fun with some fun contestants. So that was great. And of course, the OU Pod, where you can find shows like this and other incredible shows, movie reviews, TV show reviews, all sorts of fun stuff. So please check that out, the oupod.com.
Yes, yep. All right, Caesar, how about you, buddy?
You can follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/Caesar Towers. I stream sometimes on Twitch, twitch.tv/Caesar Towers. And you can find me and McKenna making a video game news show called Patch Notes, where each and every week we bring you the video game news you need to know about. And in a very fun, under 15 minutes video. So yeah, go check us out on YouTube and podcast services.
It is a great video because I love those under 15-minute ones when I'm running around like crazy all week long. It's fantastic. And McKenna, Miss Editor Extraordinaire.
You're too kind.
You're too kind. Go ahead.
You can find me on Twitter at PotterPants212 and Patch Notes.
Yay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And our very special guest tonight, Jose Ruckus. Tell the great folks where they can find you at.
I mostly tweet from at Aces Wild Pod. You can follow the podcast on any of the major podcasting services. Just look up Aces Wild. And if you want to hear me talk about tennis, you can go follow me at Jose Ruckus, because I don't want to flood all the people who follow me with terrible tennis takes.
Definitely give him a follow, because this season is just getting started and I cannot wait to see where it goes. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We are going to try to do more episodes like this where we teach you about different kinds of sports, teach me about different kinds of sports, teach everybody and McKenna about different kinds of sports.
Please.
That's going to be a Patreon extra coming probably once a month sometime in the near future. So check that out. Go to the oupod.com for all of the links for the regular show, for the sports show, for all the shows. And until next time, keep it unofficial.